But I don't think that something like a border wall wouldn't be effective. If we stop them from coming in, this wouldn't necessarily be an issue. If you don't believe in borders, then you're really taking for granted your position in a relatively safe and stable country.
What's poppin', everybody?
Welcome back to the Cold Popcast.
I'm Zoe.
And I'm Steve.
And today we're going to be talking about the migrant crisis that's actually been going on in the United States for a while. If some of you aren't aware, over the past, I would say a couple years, there's been a pretty much an issue where like a lot of migrants have been being placed into large cities like New York and Chicago due basically to like our immigration system. And we're going to go ahead and react to how it's starting to affect certain cities.
Yeah, so there's actually a lot of different people that have different opinions on the whole migrant crisis issue. A lot of that really came to light when people were talking about Trump and his border wall and the things he wanted. A lot of people hated the idea of a border wall. But my opinion is now that it hasn't been made, we're seeing a lot more migrants come into the country and sort of displace Americans in certain situations. For example, in this video, there's a group of football players in a local community, and they're being displaced from their field house so migrants can come live in it. All right, pause it.
Yeah.
So that was just a little clip from the protest. They're actually protesting it. And in this post, it says, this Chicago youth football program is being kicked out of their neighborhood field house so it can become a migrant shelter on Monday. Their players and over 600 residents showed up to protest. So a lot of people don't really think about the fact that having other people come into the country that don't necessarily have a rightful need to be there, it actually displaces Americans and causes them to suffer through things that may not be an issue. And especially in a place like Chicago, having a black community being displaced from football, it's like you have to think about the types of opportunities they're losing by being in this situation.
That's true. Because like it is affecting a football team. So you are basically, it's essentially is going to like take away opportunities for like, it's a youth center. So for youths, to basically accommodate the needs of, the people that are coming in. Now, my question is, do you support the protest, or do you think that there is like an inherent obligation, I guess, for people to accommodate for, like I said, when people are basically migrating in and they get placed here, like should the country or the people in the communities like accommodate to that, or do you think there's no real obligation to do so?
I think the hardline approach probably isn't like the most sensitive one in this situation. Like I wouldn't say, once illegal immigrants enter the country, they all should be removed immediately. I wouldn't say that.
Right.
I could think it, but I wouldn't necessarily say that because basically it's like it's not feasible. Right?
Yeah.
So if there's illegal immigrants coming into the country, there's migrants, and say there actually are escaping things like the cartel or wars or terror or things like that, then there may be a rightful need for them to be here. But I don't think that something like a border wall wouldn't be effective.
Yeah.
I don't think that if we stop them from coming in, basically I do think that if we stop them from coming in, this wouldn't necessarily be an issue. Right? So actually, more recently, there was a topic. Joe Biden actually said in a video that he is going to be rebuilding part of the border wall that Trump started.
Isn't that ironic? Because like I remember like part of the whole Democratic Republican split was about the wall. So now he's basically on board with like finishing the wall.
So actually, if we watch the video, he's not necessarily on board with it, but Homeland Security is. So let's see what he says first.
Okay.
Border wall, the money was appropriated for the border wall. I tried to get them to reappropriate it, to redirect that money. They didn't, they wouldn't. And in the meantime, there's nothing under the law other than they have to use the money for what it was appropriated. I can't stop that.
Do you believe the border wall works?
No.
The Department of Homeland Security.
So pause it. He basically says, like, one of the people in the background asked him, like, do you think the border wall works? Then he says no. But I feel like he does think that it works, but he can't say that because of the whole split that was like the whole divide between the Democrats and Republicans for so long. It's like Trump wanted a wall, but the Democrats didn't want anything Trump wanted. So they had to say, well, the wall will never work.
Okay. So he approves it, but you think it's like more of a ploy of like he's just kind of washing his hands so they can't come back and say it. But you would assume that, at least from a political perspective, he's probably more on board with it than he tries to lead on.
Yeah, I think
like optics.
I think he's just playing like a political game, like an optical thing.
I could see that. I could say like, because I mean the issue that I guess is, and it's only gonna like become more of like a snowballing effect, I guess, the more we have people coming in that we don't really know what to do with them. You know, it's like, okay, like, because that's why they start shipping them into these cities, you know, and, you know, now you're going to have a bunch of community problems going on. So if I'm like just, you know, interject my own personal thoughts on it, I can see like why a wall would be kind of like the most feasible compromise, because the only thing you can do is if you can at least cut down the amount of people that are actually able to make it over here, you know, then intrinsically you'll be able to cut down on the amount of people that you need to process, meaning that's going to be less people coming in. I don't see, you know, like I said, I don't see how a wall wouldn't be effective for that.
Right. And it's like, you know, even if you want to make an argument like, okay, well, we want to have something that still, because like, it seems like sometimes like a Democrats kind of argument is like, well, I think they should be allowed to come in. It's like with the wall, they could blow up part of the wall and get in, you know? It's like there's still the option. They could climb the wall or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not like it's impossible to get in, but I feel like there should just be more of a barrier to entry to get into America.
Yeah,
they got to work for it. Exactly, Rosie.
Yeah, it's kind of like applying for a prestigious job almost. You know, that's why the applications become like a lot more tedious or like a lot more demanding when you you know, are going for something that's a little bit more prestigious, because you know, they know a lot of people are going to try to apply for it, and you want to kind of cut down on, you know, you want to kind of cut down so your job of processing who's able to get to that point is going to be a lot easier, and then you'll be able to kind of get rid of, like, you know, more like the kind of riffraff.
Right. Let's see the video of them actually crossing the border, because like once you actually see it, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have seen people crossing the border in like really hectic ways, but this video right here kind of shows like, well, even if there was something like a wall, I feel like it would actually be very useful.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's like a group of migrants just running. It looks like they're running towards like a fence or something, though. Is that like a fence or is it just lights?
I think it
probably
could
the
be.
border.
It's probably because it looks like there's like some type of wire going across holding the lights over like a metal thing. I think it's a fence.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I wonder what they're gonna do when they get to the fence. It's like,
Well, that's probably the border area where they get processed and all that.
oh, so there's like
Maybe.
basically 10,000 people or so. Well, I don't know. That's a random number.
Yeah,
I
you
just
just
said.
like
Yeah, I just really said a random
Just
number.
said a
There's
random
probably like,
number.
I'd say 1,000. Let's say 1,000 people.
Okay.
Maybe. What do you think? Does that sound accurate?
I mean, from the
I'd say it's a
200?
lot of people.
let's say like anywhere between 100 and 1 million.
A very big people.
A large number.
Okay, so a large number of people are running at the border, and they're just going to get in. Some of them are going to get in. Some of them will be stopped. I'm sure Border Patrol will stop them, but it's like, I don't really see why they couldn't like have a little bit better of a mechanism to stop that from happening, because once there's so many people that enter the country illegally, it's not really going to make sense. Like, it's just like the logistics of it won't really make any sense in terms of like, you know, people losing their field houses or people losing like hotels. Like I had seen a video over the weekend, like 2 weekends ago rather. There was this guy, he was living in a nursing home, but they kicked a bunch of people out of this nursing home so they could move migrants into it.
Right.
The guy was like a
that part's
98 year,
wrong.
he was like a 98-year-old war veteran.
That part's wrong. I mean, at least incorporate them into homeless shelters first,
Yeah.
instead of more needy based areas.
But then you're displacing the homeless people.
well, they should be able to share with the homeless people.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, you know, it's funny because it's so weird to me that how jarring the idea of the wall is, because it's like it doesn't. I don't think the wall and the concept really compromises anyone's interest at all, because it's like
it doesn't.
It's not like we don't already have a border. Like we already established like guidelines, like whether there's a wall there or not, we already have a border. That's why like Border Patrol and processing exists. It's like we don't want people just coming in illegally. That's why it's still labeled as illegal. So I think the wall just kind of like enforces the idea that like, you know, it's gonna make it harder for people to like get across, because at the least we want to be able to catch people and process them properly. But like, because we don't have any type of defenses there, and you know, we know there's like a huge rush to kind of, you know, for people to kind of get over here. So many people are just gonna escape through without like going through any type of processing or getting any type of registration done.
It's
you know, so I feel like the wall would literally only aid to keep down and would aid to basically cut down on that and enforce a rule that we already, as a country, mutually agree we want.
Yeah.
It's like not having enough safety. Like, do you want more safety or do you want more, security or whatever?
Yeah.
It's like you can't really hurt to have more safety or security.
I think it's like you're fighting two fronts. It's like people that either want to say, oh, it's not necessary, things are fine, when I guess when you take a look at these displacement issues, it's showing more and more that's not fine. Or you just have people who generally don't believe in borders, where it's like, well, I don't know how to have an argument with that one.
Yeah, right. If you don't believe in borders.
I don't believe in borders.
Yeah, if you don't believe in borders, then you're really taking for granted your position in a relatively safe and stable country.
Yeah.
Because borders are totally necessary to keep people from coming in and taking your stuff.
Just like living in a gated community and then saying, like, I don't think we should have a border. Like, what?
Yeah.
When
let me
they
see the
do allow migrants to come into the country, why do they put them in areas that's already dense, like
That's
densely
true.
populated?
Yeah.
because we live in the place like Chicago, for example, is a very liberal city. So people that have like political agreements, like Chicago, New York, places where, or California, for example, places where they already have a lot of political sway towards like letting migrants in, or like the Dreamer program, or
They're
all those different things.
pro-migrants.
They're pro-migrant, yeah. So it's like pro-migrant places, or actually, I'd rather put it like anti-migrant places will have migrants and then ship them to the pro-migrant places.
Yes.
Because the
That's
pro-migrant
what
places are the ones that are like, oh, you should let in as many people as you can. So they're like,
Yeah.
okay, well, you deal with it.
And I think they also have like the most accommodating programs and housing for them. So it's like, I think that's that should be a part of the agreement. Like when they have to like bust them out, it's like, they have to take them somewhere that is agreeing, like Steve said, to like, house them and, provide residential accommodations.
So it's the cities that's pro-migrant, and that's why they just
Chicago,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, a lot of cities tend to be like very
New York's pretty
pro-liberal. So it's like they're going to have very like,
democratic.
liberal.
There's actually
policies.
places called sanctuary cities where people can't be deported from.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they usually send them to places like that where they're like, but in my opinion, I feel like a lot of it is just like, well, if you have a whole lot of people that come into the country illegally, then if you get them to the point where they can actually vote, then you can sort of like, sort of influence the next generation of voters. Their children obviously will be Americans.
Mm-hmm.
So those people will vote for them because it's like, well, these guys housed me and let me into the country, so obviously I'm going to vote for you.
What side are you talking about, Steve, specifically? I want to hear
mentioning
names.
bias? Are you implying that there's bias here? What are you
Yes,
saying?
Well,
that's all I just like you just do that. And these people could raise their kids so you don't vote for a certain.
Hypothetically, all of these things could occur.
Yeah, that could possibly happen. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know who would do it.
Yeah, I'm just throwing out ideas,
Yeah. I heard Kanye trademarked the word "use" recently.
Use?
Yeah,
A
use.
use?
Wait, like USE use?
Like YEWS.
YOUZE?
Oh, what's that mean?
It's like Jews, but with a Y. Oh, yeah, I was making a joke.
I didn't know that. I had no idea where that was going. I was 100%.
Okay.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I was just making a joke.
Oh, that's funny.
Pray for Israel.
The use.
Anyway, let's close this one out, man.
All right.
Thanks for watching, everybody. This has been The Cold Podcast. You can follow us on all social media at The Cold Podcast, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all over the place, or X as they call it now. We're also on all audio platforms, all video platforms, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any podcasting platform you can find. Also check us out on Patreon. $5 a month gets you access to all of our exclusive content, including the My Black Friends podcast, 80 episodes of hilarity. Thanks for popping in, and we got to pop out of here.
All right. Peace.